It's the economy, stupid. Those were the iconic words spoken nearly 30 years ago by legendary political strategist James Carville. Words that have proven true in just about every election since. Will 2024 prove it's now anything but the economy? Barron's Ideas editor Matt Peterson with us now. Matt, happy Election Day. I don't know how many of us are happy or think it will be over, but I do focus on the economy. We are a business network, as are you a business publication. Here we are, stocks at all-time highs. Unemployment is low, job growth is high, gas prices are low, domestic energy production's at an all-time high, GDP growth is healthy. Even inflation appears to be back where the Fed wants it, and I'm out of breath. Still, this is a razor-thin margin. Does the economy matter?
That is what we are going to find out tonight. Well, hopefully tonight, maybe in the next few days. But the big question is whether inflation was so bad that it just doomed the Democrats' chances, right? I mean, it was just 2 years ago, June 2022, when inflation was running at 9%. And you're right that price increases have fallen. The price of gas is, objectively speaking, pretty low. But as we all know, groceries are still expensive, and people have not forgotten that. So we're going to learn tonight whether that's just fatal for a candidacy.
Eggs, milk, bread. So maybe maybe the economy doesn't matter. It's how you feel the economy is. Is that ultimately what we will learn tonight?
I think there's some truth to that. Consumer sentiment is still below where it was coming out of the pandemic, right? People just feel gloomy about this economy, even though a lot of the sort of objective indicators that folks like me watch are up, right? And, some of that's just because we've been hearing for a year or so from the presidential campaigns about what a mess this is, right? I mean, you can't turn on TV, turn on the radio without running into one of the candidates explaining to you, how they're going to solve all your problems, reminding you of how tough this has been. So hopefully a lot of this sentiment is going to lift after the election one way or another, whoever wins, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, facts be damned. I had an argument with about a dozen people over the weekend who were telling me how bad the economy was, and I just said, give me one quantifiable metric, not about these political options or candidates, just one metric that tells you the economy is in bad shape, and well, no one can come up with one. So is there an issue or two issues that you think will ultimately decide this election?
They are probably realistically immigration and abortion. Those are the big things that the candidates have run on. Democrats point to abortion, the Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade. They point to that as the reason why they did a lot better in the 2022 midterms than everybody expected them to. And that's basically been the theory of the case. Harris would much rather talk about that issue than she would talk about the economy, even though it's pretty good. Likewise, immigration, we've all heard the stories of how chaotic the border is, how many people have come into this country illegally. That is front of mind for voters. Polls have found that for once, more Americans want to restrict immigration than not. So both the candidates basically are running on relatively restrictive immigration policies. Obviously, Trump is running much harder on that. But the Democrats aren't exactly out there defending immigration. So if the election is really going to come down to those two things.
Yeah, and because of the abortion issue, the gender gap is massive. And as I see it, is the determining factor in this election. Trump has a massive lead with men, Harris a huge lead with women. What I don't hear political commentators discussing is the fact that we have more women and men in this country, and they also tend to vote in greater numbers. How do you see that gender gap playing out and factoring in here?
I think that's about right, that you'd rather be Harris than Trump in this scenario, although I'm sure the Democrats would rather have Roe v. Wade standing than win the election, probably. But, you've seen in the last couple of days, I think Trump spending 3 hours on Joe Rogan while thousands of people waited for him to talk the other day is a good indicator of how hard he's trying to reach out to men, right? he may succeed in this effort, right? There are still plenty of women that are going to vote for him. The split in the country is like 52-48 women to men or something like that. So it's not a huge number. But women are really, really animated in this election, and it's understandable. So they're going to turn out in big numbers.
Yeah, turnout of the gender gap will truly define everything here. So, final stretch, you got Lady Gaga and Oprah showing up for Kamala Harris in Philly. Do you think that celebrity factor helps her? I've heard some actually fear on the left that it could hurt her in a real blue-collar state like Pennsylvania.
It's possible. It's hard to say what drives the couple of undecideds who are left in this country. Who I haven't met any of them lately. What tips them over to vote. Harris has Beyonce. She's got Charlie XCX. She sort of has Chapel Roan. She's got a lot of people in her camp that are supporting her. Again, I think I'd rather have them than not. But celebrities coming out, it's always polarizing. I mean, remember when George Clooney basically doomed Joe Biden's presidential run with an op-ed in the New York Times, right, back in June, July. So sometimes these celebrities are, a tricky thing for the campaign to handle.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of critical words on the right about the left bringing out these celebrities, and I say, well, what is Hulk Hogan? I mean, look, you may not have the Beyoncés or the Taylor Swifts, but you're certainly trying in that regard. So what are the final closing messages of both candidates?
Look, at the end of the day, Trump is trying to say, voters, trust me, this economy was glorious back when I was president, mostly true. Just hand it back to me and you won't have to think about this ever again. Democrats are basically saying the same thing. Harris's big closing argument was all about Donald Trump, was all about democracy. She had resisted campaigning on that up until the very end. But, a vote for Harris is really a vote against Donald Trump. That's what this comes down to. Do you want another 4 years of Donald Trump in your life or not?
So ultimately, I have to ask, do you think this thing is decided tonight, or will it play out well past the weekend?
I do not think we are going to get a result tonight. It's happened. The AP called it for Bill Clinton at 9 p.m. Eastern back in 1996, but boy, was that a long time ago. Everybody whose job it is to call these things, I've talked to a few of them, they think it's going to take a long time. So, realistically, the setup is basically the same as it was last year when it took to Saturday. Nothing fundamentally has changed in the factors that got us to Saturday last time, so it's not unreasonable to think it might go to Saturday. But, for the sake of my sleep and mental health, I'm hoping it's over sooner.
And for the sake of the nation, I hope it's over tonight. How do you think the next couple of days in that case play out, maybe here in the markets, maybe in this country? And those 76 days between now and January 6th, what are your expectations?
It could be messy in the markets if we don't get a result. I mean, I think people are relatively, used to the fact that it might take a couple of days. And so I don't think you'll see the markets collapse, the stock market collapse or anything like that if we don't get a result tonight. But, there's a lot of money that's been waiting to come into the markets, waiting for a result one way or the other. And so the more this drags on, I do think it really will weigh on markets. You will see people just not knowing how to make a bet either way. And so it's just staying back and staying on the sidelines. That could be endangering this amazing rally that the stock market has had. The outer limit of this thing, for what it's worth, is really December 11th. When the states have to finalize what their electoral college's votes will be. And then they've got a week basically for the Supreme Court to hear the results. But so, Bush v. Gore back in 2000 took until mid-December, and it's not unreasonable to think that if there's serious challenges, it may take that long again this time.
So you can punt, but is there an indicator that Matt Peterson says, all right, this is what I think happens? Is there the S&P, the Dow? It could be Nate Silver. What do you think happens tonight? Who wins this thing and why?
I'm looking at gas prices, honestly. That's the thing personally that I think has changed the most, that people aren't really talking about the most. Gas prices nationwide are about $3. And if you factor in inflation and all the rest of it, that's really, really cheap. That's just making it easier for everybody to get through this economy in one way or the other. And I think, if Harris wins, it will be because of something like that, because the economy has eased in ways that people feel, and if Trump wins, it will be because he has convinced people that that feeling that they have, that anxiety from the last 4 years, is real and it's not going to go away.
You finally found the one thing both sides agree on. We all have anxiety about the results of this election. Our thanks to Barron's Ideas editor, Matt Peterson. Our best of luck over the next couple of days. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Hang in there.